Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for this interesting musical performance. And right now, here is the big gala moment of this day, the Vision for Europe Award ceremony. Please let me introduce very shortly what this award is about. It is an annually bestowed award for distinguished personalities who have, in the course of their lives, devoted substantial energies to the establishment and development of European ideals in many possible ways. And this year's prize for our nominees is made by Blažek Glass. Let me also remind you the previous laureates. Last year it was Mikuláš Dzurinda, former Prime Minister of Slovakia. And in 2018, it was Emily O'Reilly, who was also first elected as the European Ombudsman in July 2013. In 2020, we have got two laureates, two great women, but I won't tell you myself, but someone else will. I'd love to welcome here His Excellency Tomáš Petříček, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Czech Republic. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are now remotely in connection with two distinguished politicians and inspiring personalities to whom I have the pleasure to hand over the Vision for Europe Award. I'm sure neither Margot Wallström nor Federica Mogherini do not need a long introduction, as they are well known and famous on the European soil as well as worldwide. But if you allow me, before giving the floor to the two laureates, I will briefly add to what award is. As was said, Vision for Europe is the annually bestowed award for distinguished personalities who have, in the course of their lives and professional careers, devoted substantial energies to the establishment and development of European ideals, such as strengthening peaceful cooperation among European nations, developing a fair institutional arrangement of European integration, making European integration more accessible to European publics, and overcoming prejudices and misconceptions related to the integration process. The awarding ceremony is a significant and popular part of the Prague European Summit and is accompanied by the European Vision speeches. Similar to the whole event this year, exceptionally, the ceremony is transmitted online, but the awards will be delivered through diplomatic channels. Now, without further delay, I give the floor first to Madame Margot Wallström, former Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, Commissioner, Vice President, and the UN Special Representative. She was particularly instrumental in creation of the European policies aimed at improving the protection of human health and the environment of the Europeans. She worked to reconnect the EU's institutions with citizens and strive for gender equality and equal opportunities in the world during her time in the EU and Swedish politics. Madame Wallström was also the first United Nations Special Representative on Sexual Violence in Conflict. Margot, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, dear Minister, dear Tomáš, for this. And may I say how happy I am to share this award with Federica. Nice to see you again. And I also say hello to all those listening and watching at the moment, and all my European friends. You cannot believe how dark this November evening is in Sweden, where I'm located now. And it might look very bleak when we look at the world around us. And I've often said that it's as if we are experiencing three crises. A crisis, the crisis, and also a crisis in the shadow of the other crisis. And a crisis is, of course, the ongoing pandemic that has, I think, affected the whole world, that is moving faster than us, revealing also the inequalities between countries, between rich and poor, between men and women, unveiling the downside of exploitation of people and planet. And the crisis is, of course, the climate crisis that also affect all of us, ongoing and with effects that are global and especially noticeable for us who live in the Arctic area. And I think we have not been able until now to picture climate change as an enemy, but now we are, and we have to defeat it, and we have to deal with the consequences. And then we have a crisis in the shadow of those two crises, and that is the environmental crisis that encompasses what we do with water, waste, biodiversity, and what have you. Everything we do to this, what I have insisted on calling the most beautiful planet on Milky Way. I think that we have to realize that this is also the root causes to phenomena like the pandemic that we have now. If we do all of these very bad things to biodiversity, if we continue with deforestation, unfortunately wildlife will have no other alternative than to move closer to people, and we will also see more of these zoonoses, meaning that a pandemic outbreak will happen. So I think that thinking of this in this dark November could overwhelm people, but I must say it was such a happy surprise to hear that I would receive this award, and it is such an amazing thing to think of all European friends and to see you again, Thomas, to see Federica, and also realize how important the European Union is. And we can only stay important if we stick together, and if we at this moment also demonstrate to people here in Europe, but also to the rest of the world, that we can actually distribute vaccines now to people in a fair way and effective way, and deal with the economic and social consequences of the pandemic. And I believe we can, and I believe European Union can continue to insist on multilateralism, working together with the rest of the world. And we will find a new definition also of security, realizing that we have to rely on building common security. And I thank you so much for this. You cannot believe how much I wish I was in Prague with you, and that I could travel, but that will have to wait until we see another health and safety situation. And just a big thank you. And Federica, nice to share this moment with you as well. Thank you, Thomas.
Margot, thank you very much for your nice and inspiring words. I will now give the floor to Federica Mogherini, Rector of the College of Europe, former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Italy, former Vice President of the European Commission, and EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy. I have myself attended several Foreign Affairs Councils presided over by Federica Mogherini, but besides that I want to recall, for instance, her leadership and professional contribution to the EU Global Strategy of 2016, as well as her very instrumental role in finalizing of the JCPOA and relevant UN resolutions. She had proved excellent leadership and dedication to the European values in the difficult times after the Brexit referendum and during difficult period of the transatlantic misunderstandings and tensions after January 2017. Federica, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Thomas. It's such a pleasure to see you, even if it would be much better to be physically in Prague. I was so excited when I received your invitation. Obviously, also the news of the awards, which is extremely prestigious, and I think together with Margot, we are both honored to receive it. So thank you first of all, Thomas, for this, also for having organized the Prague summit in these difficult times. We are all turning creative and trying to keep doing things that need to be done or are good to be done in different forms, using some yes, creativity and flexibility. We are trained to that. And I think we're now trying to show the response in the best possible manner to the difficult situation that Margot was describing. Margot, it's a pleasure to see you, even if at distance. It feels like family. To spend indeed a dark evening of November together, as we spent so many evenings and days and nights together working for Europe and for the rest of the world in these last years. In Brussels, where I am, because as Tomáš mentioned, I stayed in Belgium after finishing my mandate at the European Commission, and as High Representative, now I am Director in Bruges at the College of Europe, and I'm very much looking forward to invite you all for initiatives and conferences either in Bruges or at the other campus the College of Europe has in Natolin, close to Warsaw, Poland. In Brussels today was a sunny day, a bright sunny day. So let me try to bring a little bit of that sunshine in our conversations in this indeed dark moments, because I think not only Europe but the rest of the world, we've never experienced such a multiple crisis as now. I was thinking just the other day, if you think of the younger generation today, they have basically grown up in Europe and elsewhere with the threat of climate change. And I agree very much with Margot. It's a security threat, it's an enemy. And the sooner we realize it and act to contrast this, the better for ourselves, for our planet, for the future generations, but also for the current ones. So the climate threat, the climate emergency, I would say, the multiple terrorist attacks, including on European soil. Just a few days ago, we remembered the terrible attack in Paris, in the Bataclan, and elsewhere. And having been in Brussels those days, it is a very sad memory we all have. And now, two waves of pandemic, global pandemic, in this year, with the consequent lockdown measures and all the measures that we are all observing to make sure that we manage to collectively come out of this pandemic safely and healthy. And just 1 year ago, we would have never imagined not being able to travel to Prague or seeing masked foreign ministers addressing a summit. The world changes and it changes rapidly, and it doesn't look like it changes in the right direction. It feels like being at war on several fronts. But I promised you a glimpse of hope and sunshine, so this was just the preamble of my speech. I think that in all of this, there is something good. There are positive news. And there is a positive role, especially that Europe can play in this. The award is for the vision for Europe, and I think I've always believed in visions. I always argue that the famous anecdote that refers to the fact that whoever has a vision should see a psychiatrist. I think we need vision. I think we need to have a long-term horizon to be inspired and to avoid jumping from crisis to crisis. And this is also why we work together on the global strategy for the European Union. It is a vision, and it is a set of common actions that have started to be implemented in these years. I think that in this very gloomy picture we have, and in these very dark times we're living, the glimpse of hope comes from two things. One is the strength of Europe. I think the European Union is always very much ready to criticize itself, and our citizens are obviously also very rightly so demanding and pointing the fingers to the limits of the Union, and for sure we have many. But I have to say that in these times, if we were not part of the European Union, we should very fastly establish one and become all members of it. I think that the solidarity that we've managed to put in place, being it the economic one, being it the one related to the health systems of our countries, is vital, literally vital. And I think that the approach of showing and also acting as one is proving to be now, in these days with the pandemic, is proving to be crucial for the economy of scale. If it were not for the European Union, if we were not part of one union of so many millions of people, we would probably have much less hope to have a vaccine, to have a proper distribution of it, and to have a cooperative approach rather than a competitional approach. If there is one lesson that the pandemic tells us, I think, or should tell us all, is that in front of something like this, in front of a challenge like this, in front of a threat like this to our own personal health and safety, it simply doesn't make any sense to believe that the way to be better off yourself is trying to avoid that the other is better off. This pandemic tells us that as long as our neighbor, literal neighbor or symbolic neighbor, is not well, we are also not well. And this is the DNA of the European Union. The investment on the well-being of your neighbor, because you know that this is the only way to invest in your own well-being. This was the somehow the vision that the founding fathers and a few mothers, a little bit hidden back then, of the European Union had in mind after the Second World War, investing on cooperation being more convenient than investing in competition or confrontation. First time ever in European history that this happened. And I think that today, the European Union has not only the power to protect better its citizens because of the strength of being together, of being united, but I think that also today we have the mission, if we want to say so, the possibility of projecting this spirit of cooperation also outside of our borders. There is a chance today, especially after the US elections, I think, and with the incoming Biden administration, I think there is a chance of revitalizing and resetting multilateralism and a cooperative international order, which is something the European Union has always worked for, also thanks to foreign ministers like Margot and Thomas that have contributed in a fundamental way to that. But we've always kept the flag of multilateralism and cooperation high. We've always invested in the UN system. We've always invested in dialogue. We've always invested in diplomacy. We've always invested in development and humanitarian aid. We've always invested in human rights, in equality, in participation, in active citizenship. All of this because we believe that cooperation delivers better for your own interests. It's a selfish investment. It's not charity. And I think that today, the European Union has the chance to liaise with others, and namely with Washington, most likely, and very soon, to try to, yes, to reset the multilateral framework. And never as now, this is crucially important, because we will never manage to solve the many conflicts and crises we have at our doorstep, or even far away. We will never manage to address effectively climate change. We would never manage to address the inequalities that are growing in the world. And we would never manage to defeat the pandemic if we don't do that together. Alone, none of us can do it. Only together we can. And the point is that we can. So the good news, the glimpse of hope, the little sunshine that I can share with you after this sunny day in Brussels, exceptionally sunny for a Brussels day in November, is this, that yes, divided we will never make it. And sometimes we do not make it because we are divided. But together we can. And there is no limit, I believe, to what human beings can do of good if they come together and cooperate, following the principles and the values, and also at the end of the day, the self-interest that we have, which is, again, working also for the interest of the others. I I'm sure that both Margot and I will try to honor this award that we are receiving tonight, continuing to dedicate energies and determination and all the dedication we can give to not only Europe and the European project, but peace and cooperation and diplomacy and dialogue. When I was listening to you, Thomas, saying that the award is for the dedication, I understand why both Margot and I maybe received it, because we are both determined to the limit of stubbornness, I would say, which is, I think, in these times something that we need to be, yes, to be convinced of what we're doing, to do what we believe is right to do, and never giving up. If you hit the wall once, but you're convinced that what you're fighting for is right, continuing to find partnerships and cooperations and trying to achieve what is right to achieve. So I am really grateful and really appreciate enormously this possibility not only to have the award, but also to share it with Margot, who is a good friend and not only a former colleague, and also to show, if you allow me, also to show the younger generations, and in particular younger generations of women, that the sky is the limit, that you don't have a role you have to play, that you can play any role you study hard for, and that there are many women in the world that are doing important things, sometimes less visible than men, but making them visible. And I would like to thank Thomas also for this. Making them visible is probably one of the most important elements of encouragement we can give to the girls that are out there are dreaming of changing the world, and we need them to change the world. So I also thank you for having given the award to Margot and myself, because I think this has an added value also for all the young girls out there that are dreaming of having themselves a vision for Europe and for the world and for a better world, I'm sure. So thank you again, once again, and I hope that in the coming editions of the Prague Summit we will be able to meet each other in person in that wonderful city of Prague. Thank you very much.
Federica, thank you for a glimpse of hope and for your inspiring and encouraging words. I would like to strongly support, as you mentioned, the spirit of togetherness, cooperation and solidarity as a European way, not only in the past but in the future, because this is the way we Europeans can overcome all crises, not only the current pandemic. I also would like to join your word that we all look forward to meet you soon again and in person, be it in Prague, in Brussels, in Warsaw or elsewhere. And now, after a long day, please have a nice evening and be our guests again tomorrow for the consecutive part of the summit program. Thank you very much, good evening, and once again, congratulations.